And our guest speaker this morning is someone who has been doing this for many years. It has been her passion and her life. Hannelore Thiel is not a stranger to Unity, actually. We usually see her a couple of times a year. Her home is in BC, but her heart travels many places, and she comes to share what it is to be on the spiritual journey. And this morning, she's going to be sharing with us Your Soul's Whisper, a journey into gratitude. And Hannelore is a published author, an international storyteller and speaker. She's a coach and a counselor, and offers workshops wherever she travels. And this morning, she is going to take us on her next adventure. She talks about a new book that she is writing, The Soul's Whisper. Please welcome Hannelore.
Hi, everybody. I just feel such incredible gratitude to be here, because this feels like family. I see a lot of really dear friends and people I've worked with over the years. For me, this is a wonderful break, because I actually spent the last 8 months solidly, 15 to 18 hours a day, writing, and I didn't stop writing, and instead of one book I now have potentially 5. And so I'm currently deciding on publishing and all of that. I just wanted to share with you, because the process has been a remarkable one for me. I began the journey of writing, and you might relate in visions that you may have had that just didn't quite work out the way you thought they would. And so I began this journey many, many years ago, and celebrated in 2009 the completion of my book. And came back from my trip in Hawaii, placed my laptop, and everything was backed up. I had all my talks and my notes all transcribed, tossed them, everything was there, backed up, put it on my dining room table. My daughter and I decided to celebrate and go for lunch. When we came back, the door to my house was open, and first thing I saw was my flat screen TV was gone. And I immediately glanced over to the table, and I was devastated. My book and the backup, everything was gone. So I really questioned my path. I really questioned whether I was meant to write. And it took me a long time to really pick myself up from that really dark place. And gradually I began the process of writing again. I was given an insight by the Gospel of Thomas, which is based on the teachings of the Essenes. And I really want you to really listen to what this is telling you. Because if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. I knew I had to rewrite. And I began that process, and in 2011, I was close to completion once again. My mother was my muse. I would often read to her in the morning what I'd written the day before, and there'd be times that I'd go, "Mom, are you there?" And she'd go on the other end of the phone, she'd go, "That was so beautiful." I liked the me that she saw. She really inspired me to continue. I was going to publish in 2012, and my mom passed very suddenly in 2011, and my writing just got put aside. So 6 years later, I finally picked up my book again. And what I discovered was that the more I was in gratitude and found what brought me joy, the more I would attract to my life more things to be grateful for. So when I made the decision to pick up my book again and rewrite again for another time, my brother offered me his home in Arizona that I would have to myself with a private swimming pool and a completely private backyard. And so I went to Scottsdale and stayed there for several months. And I love the Unity of Phoenix. I don't know if any of you have been to the Unity of Phoenix. It's really remarkable. And I really connected with Reverend Mirage there. And what I discovered was that the more I allowed myself to be open and the flow to come through me, when I spent day after day after day continuing and working on my project, another force started to come through. And so as I would write, and the following Sunday I would go to the service and I would hear Reverend Mirage speak. And it was like, if we were living in the same place, I would swear that he had picked up my notes, the things that I'd written that week, because it was just exactly what I had just finished writing. So we kind of laughed about that and we would connect. And what I discovered was that it's about being open to the whispers of inspiration. Because your soul is your light. When you're in a place of joy, your light shines. Do you notice that when you see the light shining from your eyes and when you're in that place of joy? And that light is what we are meant to be able to share in the world. And so when you have that light, it's the essence of pure love. It's the essence of pure inspiration and infinite wisdom. And when you're open to those whispers of inspiration, it's also about feeling the glimpses of that in your heart. So for me, when my mother then passed and I picked up, I've also been blessed to have met with, who's now a dear friend, Ram Dass, a spiritual leader and has written many books. And one of Ram Dass's quotes is, "When I look back on the suffering in my life, this may sound really strange, but I see it now as a gift. I would have never asked for it for a second. I hated it while it was happening, and I protested as loudly as I could. But suffering happened anyway. Now, in retrospect, I see the way in which it deepened my being immeasurably." So what I discovered was, had I published in 2009, it would have been a completely different book. Had I published in 2012, it was a completely different book. Now it sits as a trilogy and a workbook and many other books still. So I found that I'm grateful for that process when I look back at my experience. I found that when we're in gratitude, we are in a high state of manifesting that which we desire. Because gratitude is pure love. And when I experienced my opportunities in Arizona, my heart literally was bursting. I felt it was going to burst out of my chest in total gratitude for all the synchronicities and the flow that had occurred. And I found that every time I would tend to fall back on my old self, which was procrastination, I often said if there was a king or queen of procrastination, I was probably it. And I was reminded of Mark Twain's quote, "Do not put off till tomorrow what you can put off the day after tomorrow." Another one that I enjoy is when the son asks his father, "What does procrastination mean?" The father replies with, "I'll tell you tomorrow." So I find that humor is a very important aspect of our lives. We get so serious in this spiritual journey. Many years ago, I used to every year attend the WESAC celebration in Mount Shasta. And this one particular year, James Twyman, and I know James has been here probably on a couple of occasions and shared with you. He's a peacekeeper and an entertainer, and he was speaking to our group, which was probably about 1,100 or 1,200 people. And we had several days ongoing of meditation, of speakers, and we were all sitting in our chairs, and James got up and he started to share that he had just come back from a very remote area in the world. And they had shared with them, he was one of the first white people that they had seen. And he shared with them, they shared with him something that was very remarkable. And they said that he wasn't to share it with just anyone, and he would know the group to share this with. So you can imagine we were all on the edge of our seats, because he said, "You're the group." So the room was silent, and then he just started, "Awim, away, awim, away, awim," and he started singing, and he goes, "You guys are getting way too serious. Start lightening up, you know." And I find that so often when I'm teaching, we get so serious on this journey, but it needs to be lightened. It needs to be a place of joy. When I would take breaks from my writing, because I would start very early in the morning, and there were many days I spent 18 hours sitting at my computer. So every now and then I would pause, and this one particular day I turned on the TV and I was watching a movie. It was an old movie. It was a 1950s movie with Gloria Swanson and William Holden. I believe it was called, Sunset Boulevard. And it's a movie about an aging starlet, and it's very overly dramatic, the acting, and this woman is, she's a long ago star, and she was asked to be in a movie, and she had her gigolo that was there, William Holden, much younger than her. And so she started doing all these face pulls and walking down the stairs very dramatically, and she was into this whole thing. She was now going to be a movie star again. And what she didn't realize is they really just wanted her car, her antique car. But they knew that they needed to have her in order to do that. Well, this thing went on and on and on about how old she was. The whole movie was how old she was. And at one point, her gigolo boyfriend says to her, "Come on, it's time to get over yourself and face the fact that you're already 50 years old." I just about fell off the chair. So all I can say is I am so grateful that we have moved out of that way of looking. You know, I don't know who they are, they say that 50 is now the new 30, 60 is the new 40, 70 is the new 50, 80 is the new 60, and 105 is the new 100. So it's so wonderful to see how we do stay youthful more, and I really feel a big part of that is when we are in joy and doing what it is that brings us passion. Children have always been such a beautiful source of gratitude for me. I'm so grateful. I have 3 delightful young grandchildren, and this is an actual piece that when these groups of children at 4 to 7 were asked, well, what is love? And Bobby, who is age 7, replied with, "Love is what is in the room with you at Christmas if you stop opening your presents and just listen." Isn't that amazing? I love this little piece here. When an adopted child was asked, "What does it mean to be adopted?" she replied, "You grew in your mommy's heart instead of in her tummy." Those are the types of things. And I found that the more I wrote, the more I researched, the more I found gems of wisdom and sharing with me. Maddie Stepanek, if you've ever heard of Maddie Stepanek, a young boy that had a rare form of muscular dystrophy. He was on Oprah several times, and he was actually the main reason why Oprah extended her program, because he decided it was in her best interest and in the world's at 11 years old. But I love this little piece. Maddie, when I looked at my information, Maddie's mother shared a beautiful story. And that was when Maddie was, it was long before he had met Oprah. He was 6 years old. And he and his mother had been into a shop. And as they went back to the car, they both looked down and there was a nickel. And his mom says, oh, look, how wonderful, we found a nickel. I'm grateful for that. And Maddie said, well, yes, but that means that someone else is sad because they've lost the nickel. And so he immediately took the nickel and he went back into the store, went to the store clerk, and he placed the nickel on the table, and he said, someone lost this nickel. And he says, well, I don't know that you can buy much for a nickel these days. And Maddie just went, yes, you can get a gift. And so and it was a secondhand store, and so the owner said, well, if you can find something for a nickel, you can take that home with you. And so Maddie's interest was books, even at that age. He has written, and you may have some here, I know at one time you did, he wrote a series of books called Heart Songs. And so he found this book on Oprah. And so he immediately took that book, and he had it read practically by the time he got home, and was inspired to write Oprah. You can Google Maddie. It'll open your heart. He's a remarkable, remarkable soul. So I'm grateful that there are souls like Maddie that have been on this planet. He's passed away a number of years ago now, and to see again what it is like to have someone, a little master in this little body's light to shine and make a difference in the world. There are so many things, like the number of writings that I've had in the book. As I was researching, I'm sure many of you have heard of Dr. Emoto, who did a lot of testing with water. And for those of you that haven't, he discovered that when you put, either by written word or by spoken word, onto a label, onto a jar of water. So if you were to use love or gratitude on one jar, and then put hate and anger on another jar, and then he would freeze that water, and he would look under the telescope, and he would see the crystallization, the formation of the water, and the difference of these incredible shapes that would show up with love and gratitude, and the difference it would make when he would show up the ones that had a lot of energy or anger and hatred. What I did discover as I was writing is, and some of you may be familiar, but there's also the rice experiment. Anyone familiar with the rice experiment that we did? You are? Isn't it great? You did? Isn't that exciting? So I decided to do the rice experiment. So I took 3 equal-sized glass jars and a couple of tablespoons of raw rice and equal water. There's a third jar, and that is you ignore it. And I found what was very interesting is I did these jars now. It's been about 2.5 months ago. I still have them sitting on my counter. And the jar that I would give love and just feel that energy of gratitude with, still to this day is still clear, and the rice still sits there. The jar and that was a hard one for me to do. It's just, you're so horrible, you're ugly, and to this jar. And it's all blackened. The jar that you ignore is all blackened, and what I discovered was, although I ignored it by completely putting it back somewhere, but I learned that I had to do an intentional ignore. And with the intentional ignore, that is even blacker than any other of even the hate. And so the message really is that we pay attention to our children. We offer gratitude for the people that are in our lives. It is when we ignore, when we shun others, that it is a very hurtful experience. And so, this is a part of, a big part of what I have written about, because it extends. But I found that if there is an intentional gratitude, when you intend with gratitude, that you suddenly have more and more to be grateful for. And I even experimented with this in that, I had this incredible experience swimming with dolphins, and I thought, okay, I'm going to use this intentional gratitude. My intention is that I have an experience swimming with a humpback whale. And a couple of days later, I was right there with the humpback whale and her baby, and the mother was like this far away from me, and the baby came up this close. And I was feeling so much gratitude, I thought, okay, and then I went to have lunch with Ram Dass. And so I'm talking to Ram Dass about a number of things, and Ram Dass tells me, I'm inviting Deepak and his wife over for dinner tomorrow, would you like to join us? And I'm just going, yes, I would love it, thank you. So I offered to help make the dinner, so I went there the next day and I was making the dinner. I'm going, wow, this intentional gratitude is just so incredible. And I'm at the barbecue and I'm going, okay, what else can I attend? And I'm thinking, Wayne Dyer lives in Maui. It would be really cool if Wayne Dyer came for dinner. And then like 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang and I opened the door and there's Wayne Dyer. So it was a remarkable dinner. So I just wanted to invite you, just give you a few ideas to cultivate your gratitude. So when you look at keeping a gratitude journal, and it's about sharing with your family and friends, sharing what you are most grateful for at meal times. I love that my son and his wife, they still have sit-down meals together, and they always share what was their most wonderful thing that they experienced, what are they grateful for each day. Writing little notes of gratitude, writing little letters, expressing gratitude to people that are at work, just smiling more often. Things that you can do. When you can do something for others, when you have the gift and the ability to do for others. Quite a number of years ago, I would often adopt a family for Christmas. And this particular year, I was still in the film industry, so we had a lot of donations. And we were given the information. It was a family, a single woman, her mother living with a daughter and a little 6-year-old boy. So we had a van completely loaded, a cube van loaded with a Christmas tree, all the decorations, a month's worth of food, wrapped presents, and we were so excited about being able to deliver this. We deliver it, and here's a 6-year-old boy seeing all these gifts, everything happen. And what his eyes lit up for was the box of mandarin oranges. To see that, and when you're able to do something like that, to be of service and to offer, that lifts your spirits and your hearts. So it's really about paying it forward. And so I just want to share with you, it's how incredibly amazing and magnificent you are, because every one of us has this magnificent brilliance within. For when a drop of water falls in a lake, there is no identity. But when it falls on a leaf, it sparkles like a diamond. So I invite you to be the diamond and sparkle and notice where you can shine. There is a beautiful a piece by the Talmud, and I really loved hearing that over and over when I was in that process of really continuing that part of writing and recognizing I wasn't alone and that God and the source was there to assist me in the process. And this is a piece from the Talmud. Every blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow, grow. So with that, I thank you, and I go to this. Yeah.